But you mentioned prosecution. I interviewed Charlotte Denon. She's running now for Vermont State Attorney.
Yes, the stinker. I wanted her to run with us.
Well,
for exactly the same office.
I support her, and I'm going to vote for her. And I think we can, if we're all elected, we can work very well together. But she just wrote a book about the prosecution of George Bush for murder. You mentioned the prosecution.
Indeed, she did.
I would say we should investigate, and it's very likely, in my opinion, it's possible that Bush ordered the attack on the Trade Center as to create an excuse for his wars. But even if he didn't, he sent Vermont young people to Iraq under false pretenses. They lied about the weapons of mass destruction, and that's the murder of young Vermonters.
Oh, yes, it's murder. Yes. Look, I'm sorry. You know, slap your face and wake up, people. The federal government of the United States is not under your control, and it is not a nice bunch of people. It is a very nasty bunch of people, and they don't give a fig what you think or what you need. And you're seeing that now, and you're going to see more very soon. It's just not the little bubblegum story that we have all wanted it to be all of our lives. That's not what it is. It's dead men and criminals. Deep, hardened, greedy, power crazy, unfeeling, inhuman criminals. That's who's running this country.
I read Howard Zinn's book, A People's History of the United States, and that was a real eye-opener for me, that it's not just, at first, I thought only of my own experience in Vietnam, for instance, in the Gulf of Tonkin, and they lied about the attack on our ships in the Gulf of Tonkin in order to create that Vietnamese war. But if you read Howard Zinn's book, People's History of the United States, it goes all the way back to the very beginning. The Mexican War was a setup, the Spanish-American War, and the country was based on slavery for more than half the history of the country. We had black slaves, and then the Indians. That was genocide. And yet we talk about protecting other people from genocide in Croatia, and it's just hypocrisy.
To put it mildly. To put it mildly. It's not exclusive to Americans at all. Hitler used what's called a false flag attack. Kristallnacht was clearly done by the Nazis. The burning of the Reichstag was done by the Nazis. It was always blamed on communists. The Polish attack, supposedly on German troops, was in fact Germans in Polish uniforms. But we had British soldiers running around Iraq dressed up as Arabs, throwing bombs, and when the people of, I think it was Fallujah, not Fallujah, I can't remember the town, the people in that town seized them, saw all the weapons, saw the bombs, saw the Arab dress and so on, and realized what was up and put them in jail. The Brits came in and busted the jail down and took their guys out. We have people faking attacks on us all throughout those countries where we are supposedly at war. Even, who was the American defense official? Blair. Another Blair, our Blair. American defense official, very high up, said in the New York Times, in mainstream news a few months ago, that there weren't more than 100 Al-Qaeda people in all of Afghanistan. So what are we doing? What are we doing there? What is the benefit to the United States of America? What's the benefit to you, to me, to our children, to our grandchildren? What exactly are we doing there?
To you and me, there's no benefit at all, but to the big oil people, the Bush family, they've got their pipeline going through Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And it was only after the Taliban refused to allow the pipeline to be built that the war started.
Well, they were going to build it, but they had their own contractor. And they were going to run it in a different direction. But we wanted Unocal to get it. Unocal is what Karzai was an employee of Unocal, by the way. We wanted our people to get it, and we wanted to run a little bit different direction, and we wanted to call the shots. I think the quote goes something like, the Taliban leaders were told, either, you know, build it our way and do it our way and retire on a carpet of gold, or you will be seeing a carpet of bombs. That's how it gets done in the real world, folks. The make-believe world that you see on television and the newspapers is just that, make-believe. In the real world, hard men sit down in rooms with other hard men, and guns, killing, and warfare is clearly on the table. It's threatened, and it's done. That's what we're doing in Afghanistan.
And people should be aware that you're a military officer, so you
Sure.
you know what you're talking about.
Sure, and believe me, the military is full of, not 100% full, but there are an awful lot of highly honorable, very decent people who are career military people. I know, I was in there, I met them. Some differ on important issues. That doesn't make them indecent. You know, look at it. They're not out working for some major corporation making mega bucks, banks, IBM, you know, making just humongous, obscene amounts of money. No, military people don't make a lot of money. They do what they see as their duty. So right away, you know they are not money grubbers. Right away, that should tell you that in terms of character, you get a higher grade of character in the military than you get in international banking. I know that is true. And yet, I was all my life called a rabid leftist. But I know that is true because I was there. I met the men.
A turning point for me in the Vietnam War was the massacre at My Lai by Lieutenant Calley.
Yeah.
What happened there, do you think?
Men get crazy. In combat, men get crazy. And in a rapidly escalating war situation, it is very difficult to control that craziness. We have a lot of soldiers coming back now from the Middle East with PTSD,
Post-traumatic
stress syndrome. The things they are seeing would shake any normal human being. And furthermore, the things that some of them are doing totally trash them as moral human beings. It busts them up. They know it's wrong. They don't dare to refuse. Don't ask me why. I don't know the answer to that. But all those guys coming back know what they saw, they know what was wrong, and in some cases, they know what they did. And they know that it wasn't right.
Instead of refusing, a lot of them
busts them.
are committing suicide.
It busts them. The guilt is overwhelming. That's what PTSD is, in my humble opinion, and I have a medical background and a psychological, I'm psychologically trained. I studied it in college a lot. That's my opinion. In Vietnam, you had the same thing. You had breakdown in the field. People asked me, why did you join the Army in the first place? And I said, look, my people were from Canada. I didn't want to go to Canada. I was opposed to the war, from the outset. My people were from Canada. I didn't want to run to Canada. I was a wet behind the ears kid from Vermont. I didn't want to screw myself up in drugs and fail the physical. I didn't want to touch drugs. I didn't like drugs. I didn't know anything about them. Couldn't do that. I wasn't sophisticated enough to pretend to be gay, because in those days, if you were gay, they didn't take you. Today, I could pull that off, but in those days, I couldn't. Even though I was a conscientious objector in my soul and in my spirit, I didn't meet the criteria. You have to believe in a supreme being. You have to have a long history of demonstrable, that you are a total peace person. You will not fight. You will turn the other cheek. I was never that guy, and I knew it. I couldn't lie on the form, and I couldn't fill that form out and lie on it. That's not who I am. So, you know, but what I said to myself was, I'm not a pacifist. If I let you put me in a jungle in the middle of the night where everybody's shooting everybody and little guys with their pointed hats are trying to kill me, I will kill anything that moves. And I know that. I know that. So I had to make my decision before I let them put me there. I couldn't let them put me there because I know what I would do. That's why I refused to go. Many, of course, almost no one does that.